Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, we'll be starting in the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Do I have access to sharing the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, should we start?
Sure, start. Let's start.
All right. Just take a couple of seconds. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's 7th session 1 of the 15-day refresher course on New Age Teaching Methods and Skills in Higher Education, organized by Jagran Institute University, Bhopal and Droid Pinel Group in collaboration with Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Today we have amongst us Professor Dr. Shailja Shastri, Dean, Faculty of Liberal Arts and Studies, Jagran Institute University, Bhopal. Before handing over the podium to ma'am to address the gathering, I would briefly introduce her. Dr. Shailja Shastri is the Dean, Faculty of Liberal Arts and Humanities, Jagran Institute University, Bhopal. For the last 30 years, Dr. Shailja has been a teacher, trainer, researcher, counselor, and an advocate for the cause of mental health in education. Earlier, she has worked in the following positions as the Director of Training and Research Initiatives, a psychological solutions company and mental health resource hub at Bangalore. She has also been professor and head of the Department of Psychology at Jain University, Bangalore, Dean of Psychology at the International Academy for Creative Teaching, Bangalore. She has been actively engaged in research and has successfully guided 9 PhD, 17 MPhil scholars, and she holds more than 25 publications in refereed research journals. A certified Cambridge University facilitator and Dale Carnegie trainer, Dr. Shailja had conducted over 800 workshops involving more than 20,000 participants for leading corporate houses, college faculty, school teachers, parents, and young learners. She has a broad spectrum of experience in the field of training, having trained employees of government undertakings as well as companies like KP Electronics, Carle Infra, and Wipro, among others. She was also a consultant to Wipro's prestigious Mission 10X and has conducted workshops for engineering college faculties across the country. She has been invited by corporates like Triveni Turbines Limited to be a consultant in their research projects. Dr. Shailja was invited to be a part of the Future of Learning organized by the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She was a part of the core group that participated in design thinking experiment and to discuss how classrooms need to change in future. One of her special interests is parenting, and she has conducted several workshops in collaboration with schools and corporate houses. She has partnered with Open Face Media House and has brought out a series of 6 videos interviews on the art of parenting millennials, which is now available on YouTube. Another of her significant achievement has been the development of an innovative life skill program for students, which is now being implemented in several schools and colleges across the country. During the COVID time, she has been actively involved in conducting webinars on topics like psychological well-being, new normal parenting, and learning crisis. Ma'am, it's an absolute honor to have you amongst us. Without any further ado, I would request you to kindly address the gathering.
Dr. Apurva, thank you for that introduction. And good afternoon to all of you here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I hope, yeah. And Kumud ma'am, to you. So wonderful to meet all of you, although it is online. Hope our interactions will be engaging. As I have planned, and if you have read the title, it is called as a reflective session. I'm going to share my screen here. Let me just share screen. I hope you can see. I hope you can see my screen. So the concept of lifelong learning in higher education, and I've termed it as a reflective session. So reflective is, I think somewhere I see this as an opportunity for all of us as educationists to dwell and think about the concept of lifelong learning and our experiences in our own university and spaces of profession where we are operating in, to see what we have done and what we can do better. So it is, I am not here to lecture or give a session on something. I think I'm looking at it as an opportunity for all of us to pool in our minds and experiences. So I've termed it as reflective session. Now, when I'm presenting a few points in the discussion, I have a caveat to place before you. Since I'm a psychologist by training and profession, what I'm going to present before you, and we will dialogue on that, is the psychological conceptualization and the existing theoretical models of the concept of lifelong learning. So there would be a psychological twist in what we are going to discuss today. And whatever I'm presenting to you is based on my limited experience that I have gathered as a teacher in the higher education sector, and also as a practitioner of in the psychological domain, and especially as a career counselor. So this is where I would present to you my thought processes, and probably let us share our experiences and our conceptualization and what we have understood. So let me start asking you to reflect on two questions based on the current scenario in the educational segment, in this educational sector. What are some things that we are doing effectively? There are two questions. The first question that I want you to reflect, and probably your answers or whatever you want to share could come on the chat box. And if otherwise, if you want to, you can even interact by, I don't like using this term, unmute yourself and give your opinion. Two questions. Question number one, what is it that we are teaching effectively in what we are doing in the field of education in our country? There are certain things that we are doing amazingly well when compared to other countries, okay, in the global scenario. And the second question is, what is it that we should be engaging or we should be teaching, but we are missing out? What is it that we are missing out? So can we reflect on these two questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. So two questions. What is it that we are doing amazingly well in the current scenario? And what are some of the things that probably we are missing out? So opportunities for you to type in. If you're comfortable typing in is fine. If you want to unmute yourself and speak, I'm happy to give that space to you. Dr. Swati, would you like to say something?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, Priya.
So my first
Dr.
question is asking what I am doing.
Please go ahead, Dr. Priya.
Yes, ma'am. So first thing that I do extremely well, that if I am capable to deal one kind of topic and I am expert in that topic, I will enjoy to teach that topic. And for that, I have to be expert in that particular content. So that is the one
Okay.
thing.
Okay. Thank you. I will present my question once more. I do not want you to present it from a personal perspective. In the field of education, what we are doing currently in our country, what we have done so far, what is it that we are doing extremely well? For example, we are dealing with large numbers, what we call as massification of education. We are extremely good in handling numbers, and that's our strength. And no other country probably caters to so many numbers. So that's something of our strength. So can we look at the larger educational scenario? That's something I want you to think of. And the second question is there something from your experience that we are missing out in our education system? Yes, Dr. Swati, please go ahead. We can't hear. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Dr. Swati, we can't hear you. Okay. Dr. Swati says that skill development is our strength. Yes, we are good in that. Can you just elaborate on that by research is missing. Our emphasis on research is something that we are missing. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? It's a reflective session. So therefore, I want you to Gangadhar sir, would you like to say something? आपको कुछ शेयर करना है? सर, आपने अनम्यूट नहीं किया. Yes, yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Study through the practical work is most important.
Are we missing out on that? We are not providing enough practical. Yes. Thank you for that. Shweta Yadav also says that we are not providing practical knowledge. We are more focused on books and marks. I think we have mastered the art of handling examination process for very large groups of people, but we are not, somewhere we are missing on the connect with the practical knowledge. Thank you, Shweta ma'am, for that. Priya ma'am, would you like to share? Gangadhar sir, thank you for it, for your input. Priya ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, I wrote in
There is a drag in your voice. Anybody else would like to? Miss Sarita is saying that use of technology has increased. Definitely, I think we have today gathered the skill set of utilizing and optimizing technology and reaching out to large groups of people. So, friends, somewhere we are you know, research has indicated that we have in our country, one of the best things that we have done is the structuring of our course content. The course content that our students are exposed to is excellent, and the bandwidth of exposure that they have is excellent. Our reach out to masses, the numbers that we reach out to, is second to none. However, there are a few challenges in the process. What we are missing out is life skills. We have not embedded life skills and connect to real, what you have told rightly, Shweta ma'am has brought it out. The practical connect, the connect to life is something that has been missed out somewhere. And one aspect of this connect to life that we need to see is the concept of lifelong learning. The connect to lifelong learning. And this is a change that we need to keep in mind. We have to prepare ourselves to this change. Now, what is lifelong learning? Can some of you tell me what comes to your mind when we hear this term lifelong learning? This is a very popular term now. A lot of people use this term. We have come across this term. What comes to your mind when you listen to this term lifelong learning?
So, ma'am, may I?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Go ahead.
So, lifelong learning, if I'm talking about this, so I feel that moral and we can say values and the ethical part, that is the thing that is something like lifelong learning, and we are using this.
Okay. Thank you, Priya ma'am. Is there anybody else who would like to reflect on the term lifelong learning? You can even put your thought processes in the chat box. I will wait for a couple of, maybe a minute or two, for your reflections on the concept of lifelong learning. Yes, I'm just looking at. Dr. Parag says self-education, irrespective of ages, to improve living. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Parag, for that. Conceptualization of the concept of lifelong learning. Self-education, irrespective of age. I think that's a wonderful way to put it across. When I say lifelong learning, a lot of people get confused or misinterpret with adult education. Lifelong learning in this discussion today is not about adult learning. It is also not about older people getting back to the campus, getting back to education system, the lateral entries. No, we are not focusing on that. What we are focusing is definitely on how do I maintain a spirit of learning across my life, and that is it something that I can imbibe it in the course of my formal education. So that's the concept that we are looking at. Shweta Yadav has written here, active role in continuously learning and increasing your knowledge. Yes, you're right. Thank you for that information. So what we are looking at is not just limited to adult learning or opportunities for the older people to get back to the university. I'm not talking of lifelong learning from that perspective. As we know that there are 3 different formats of learning. If you look at the learning formats, we have the formal learning setup. That's what happens in a structured classroom, where there is a teacher and a formal engagement between the teacher and the person who is learning there. So there is a formal engagement in a structured environment. That is what is called as a formal format of learning. That happens in educational institutions. There is also a non-formal format, like what we are doing today. This is a non-formal format. We are together sharing our understanding of certain concepts and are based on our experiences. This is what is called as a non-formal format. Now, there is also, as you know, an informal format, because learning is not limited to only what we learn in the classroom or what we learn in training sessions. There are multiple sources of learning beyond the classroom, beyond the four walls. And it could be our own teachers. I mean, I learn from my family members, from my friends, from my peers, etc. So lifelong learning involves being excited about learning in all these segments, across all these formats. In formal setting, I am excited about it. In non-formal setting, I am motivated. In informal settings too, I'm open to learn. So I'm looking at conceptualizing lifelong learning from this perspective. There is something that we all take up. Do you agree with this? Do you agree with what we are discussing? Do you have anything to say at this point of time? Any reflections? Have you learned in informal settings? Yes, we are all learning a lot have been learning a lot in formal settings. Can you, one of you give me some learning that you had in an informal setting? From our friend circle, from our families, we have learned. Can you tell me some of them? Can one of you outline that?
Through watching movies.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, watching movies. Can you tell me something that you have learned watching some movies? Can you tell me something? You're absolutely right. That's an informal way of format of learning.
Yes, ma'am. Like by watching movies, there is always a scenery from other countries. We get to know about other countries.
Yes. So gathering knowledge. Yes.
Yeah. When we see some documentaries, and then again we happen to learn many things.
Yes. So we get information. We learn.
Self-determination.
Yes, sir. Himanshu, sir, please can you?
Self-determination.
Excellent. How did you learn that? It's a very important concept. How did you learn self-determination in an informal setting? Probably you have watched your parents.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
exactly. You may have seen your grandparents, you may have seen your family members struggling and striving, and we learn that. I see that. Thank you, sir, for that. There are two people who have raised hands. I don't. Dr. Surjit, and then Dr. Deepika.
जी मैम हिंदी में बात कर सकती हूँ?
Yes, please. Yes. मेरा हिंदी इतना ठीक नहीं है, but बात कर सकती हूँ मैं भी. हाँ.
जी मैम, जैसे आपने इनफॉर्मल कहा ना, मैंने ट्रेन में सीखा था, जो बात मुझे जिंदगी भर कभी भूलेगी नहीं. हाँ. और वो भी एक स्वीपर से. तब मैं कुछ टीचिंग
शेयर करिए मैम, थोड़ा डिटेल में.
वो जो है ना, हमारे मिथ्यास में आता है कि वो जो सागर मंथन हुआ था और जो युद्ध हुआ था, उसमें अमृत जो था देवताओं को मिला था, दानवों को नहीं मिला था. तो मेरे मन में, जैसे बाकी लोगों के मन में सवाल होता है, यही एक सवाल था कि दानवों को वो अमृत ना मिलना, उनके साथ ये कोई जस्टिस नहीं हुआ। तो फिर उन्होंने बताया कि अगर उनको अमृत मिल जाता तो वो तो दानव रूप में अमर हो जाते। भगवान ने उनको दानव रूप में अमर नहीं करना था, इसलिए उनको विष मिला, अमृत नहीं मिला, क्योंकि उनका जन्म बदल कर फिर उनको जो है अमृत देना था। तो ऐसी जो बात है कि जो हमारे मन को एक संतुष्टि देती है, तो मुझे लगता है कि मैंने जिंदगी में एक स्वीपर से भी कुछ सीखा।
हाँ, एक्सेलेंट। सो लाइफ में बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, बहुत सोर्सेस है, वो जो हमको सीखना मिलता है वो लिमिट क्लासरूम के सेटिंग में लिमिटेड नहीं है। बियॉन्ड क्लासरूम्स में बहुत सारे चीज को हमको सीख सकते हैं। वी कैन बी एक्साइटेड एंड मोर पावरफुल लर्निंग। आपने एक सेंटेंस यूज किया जो जिंदगी भर मैं नहीं भूल सकती हूँ, itna powerful hai. So it can be a powerful learning opportunities. Thank you, Dr. Surjit. Deepika, Dr. Deepika, can you raised your hand?
Ma'am,
Yes.
informally, we also learn in our family, basically social skills we learn from our family members.
Yes.
How to interact with others, how to give respect to our older peoples. Many things we learn informally, and through observation, we also learn from our parents.
Yes.
Etc.
Yes, well, what we call as vicarious learning. We watch people and we learn. We observe people and we learn. So these are very powerful spaces for learning. So learning is, it happens across all these different formats. And to categorize that learning is only limited to an educational setting can be limiting. We may be limiting the conceptualization or the capacity of learning. Now, the question is, how do we get our students excited for lifelong learning? Because they are geared. One of the limitation of our education system is they understand, or the conceptualization is that learning happens only in a classroom setting and it has to be demonstrated in a paper and pencil test. And we have mastered the art of assessing through a paper and pencil test. Now, how do we motivate? What do you think? One of the things, as I was telling you, what we are missing is how do we instill life skills? How do we instill the concept of lifelong learning? That I have to have an open mind to learn constantly from anywhere and everywhere. And they can be quite powerful tools of learning. And we see that happening. We see that happening currently. You look at us. Why are we attending this session, series of lectures and interaction? Why are we doing it? Why? Why are we taking this time out, logging on to this session, trying to be a part of it? Because we know that at two levels, it could be at two levels. It could be at a professional development. I know that a 15-day refresher course is mandatory for my appraisal. That could be one thing. It is investing in my professional development. But it's also for personal development. Why are you communicating? Why are you answering a question? Why are you giving a reflection? Because we know that learning can be, at a personal level, can be very fulfilling. And that's something that constantly is expected from people, that there is professional development on one level, but more important, and what is generally ignored, is learning for a personal development. I think many of us, many of us here can vouch for it, that we love learning because for the spirit of learning, because it is very engaging. It adds meaning to our life. It makes me much more a confident person, right? So lifelong learning is geared towards professional and personal development too, at both levels. Now, there has been a model which is of all the things in lifelong learning. What I really appreciate and I value is this concept, and this is based on a research. The concept of lifelong learning entails 4 things: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. This is one of the most powerful conceptualization of the bandwidth of lifelong learning. What is learning to know? I mean, learning to know is very cognitive. Very cognitive. I want to learn something about what's happening across the world. There is some issue that has cropped up. I want to understand that a little better. So I will learn, read it up, and I will try to collect more information on that. For example, let me tell you, at Jagran Lake City University, we have a lot of people who have achieved professionally in the corporate sector, coming back to us to engage in a PhD program and register for their PhD program. I'm sure in your universities also you have it. Now, that is the excitement of wanting to learn something more, to cognitively acquire comprehension and understanding about a concept. Learning to do is something hands-on, like how all of us when the pandemic happened, we all we moved into the online mode. We were all trained in the offline mode. We were all very good at offline teaching. We were experts in that area. But when the situation required, we unlearned and we relearned how to use the Zoom platform or how to use different online platforms. And we learned how to engage with our student community. That's learning to do. We learn a skill. We learn to ride a cycle. We learn to ride a car. We learn swimming. That is learning to do. That's a skill learning. While we are focusing on these 2 areas very well in our education system, what is missing out is the next 2. And I want to dwell a little longer in these 2 areas. Learning to live together and learning to be. I want your reflections on these 2. What is the importance and why should we prioritize learning to live together? Because this is a pillar of lifelong learning. The 3rd pillar of lifelong learning is learning to live together. What does this mean? What does this mean to you? Learning to live together. Do you think this is important? Are we missing this out in our education system somewhere? Think about it. The 3rd pillar of lifelong learning is learning to live together. Can you reflect on how intensely competitive our education system is?
Madam, that should be cooperation between all our staffs in our institution.
Yes, we are role models. Yes, you're right. We are role models. So I told you, our students watch us informally, in informal settings. When we are talking to our staff, the way we conduct ourselves as a leader, the way we interact, and the way I talk about my colleague.
Yes, ma'am.
These
Yes,
are these are informal learning formats for students about life. So thank you for bringing this concept in, and learning to live together is something that our students need to be trained. Let me just help you to recollect how intensely competitive our education system is. I'm not being judgmental. I'm stating reality. I'm not telling it is good or bad, or whether it is right or wrong. But the current scenario is we pit one against the other for every single mark. Marks are given on how much better I do than somebody else. You look at let's go back to the kindergarten. I always give this example. Let's go back to the kindergarten. How many of you have raised children, or how many of you have young children who are in primary school or in early education, in the pre-primary section? I'm sure you have had this experience. Let's not come to higher education itself. Higher education comes later. Yes, Priya has raised her hand. I mean, have you seen how we make? Yes, Mridula, would you like to share something, Sapna? How intensely competitive? Can you imagine for kindergarten admission, you have an interview. The child has to face an interview to get admission to a kindergarten segment. And the child has to is pitched against some other child. They are made to write when their muscles are not yet developed. They have to balance that long pencil between those two small little fingers and write between those 4 lines. And they cannot move from, they cannot move from one line to another. That the child gets 3 stars. The child who is not done that gets no stars at all. So can you imagine how intensely competitive we have made our education system? It's constantly pitching against each other. Are there marks for collaboration? Are there marks given when I have demonstrated, I've reached out to my friend, my colleague, my classmate? I'd like to share a little story with you, with all of you, about where I read this in an I read this as an interview. I read this in an interview with Mr. Narayan Murthy. I'm sure all of you have heard of Mr. Narayan Murthy, who was the creator of Infosys. I'm sure you have heard his name. Now, in one of the interviews, he told that the concept of Infosys was the conceptualization of the conceptualization of Infosys was because of something his teacher provided an opportunity to him to get an experience. I'll tell you what he shared. Mr. Narayan Murthy said that he was excellent in his engineering college days. I mean, he would always get 90-95% of marks, 98, and always largely the topper. And he was very excited about his achievement. And he would always run to one particular teacher whom he was very fond of, whom he had immense respect for. And he would run to this teacher and go and tell the teacher, the teacher, sir, I have got 98% and once again I'm the topper, or I have got 96%, I'm the topper. And Narayana Murthy says every time he shared his personal achievements with his teacher would not show that kind of enthusiasm, what he expected. He thought his teacher would be very excited when he said that he was a topper. He felt that his teacher was not showing him that kind of excitement. So he asked his teacher, sir, why are you not excited about what I'm achieving? I'm sharing it with you always. So I believe the teacher then told him that, you know, you are so hardworking and you are cognitively blessed that not getting 95 or 96 or 98 is not possible. You are capable of that and it's not surprising. So then I believe Narayana Murthy asked him, what would then excite you? When would you be excited? So that's the time the teacher challenged him. The teacher told him, I believe, that, you know what, there are 4 students in your class who are not crossing that line of passing, who are not tipping over to the passing side. They're not doing terribly well. Can you do something for them? Can you train them? Can you teach them? Can you engage them? So this was that little ignition, you know, that the teacher provided, a kind of challenge the teacher provided. And Narayana Murthy says that that day, he started running behind these 4 classmates of his, caught hold of them, went to the hostel, lunch break, tea time, evening, dinner, post-dinner, sat with them and started teaching them the topics. And he says, entire semester he did that. And at the end of the semester, when the results were declared, Narayana Murthy had something very interesting to say. He said that that day I ran so fast to the board where the results were declared. And what I was looking at that time was not my marks, but the marks of my 4 friends. And when I saw that all 4 of them were passed, I ran with double the speed to my teacher. And I told my teacher, sir, all my 4 friends have passed. He says that day the teacher stood up, went round the desk, stood next to him and shook hands and said, today I call you an achiever. Today I call you an achiever. And Mr. Narayana Murthy says that this experience of his, you know, triggered off that concept that whenever I start a company, I need to have a collaborative approach in my company. And this was the genesis of the concept of Infosys. So why am I giving you this example? Lifelong learning. Now do you see that ignition of a thought, of an idea, which engagement between a teacher and a student led to have something happening 20 years later, 15 years later. So the third pillar which we are missing in our intensively competitive world is to care for the other person. Be collaborative. And the 4th pillar, and this is, as a psychologist, I pay immense value to this, you know, pillar. And what is that? The 4th pillar is learning to be. What do you mean by that? Learning to be. Can somebody reflect on this? Learning to be. And this is something very important in our lives. Dr. Sonali, you want to say something?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, please. Can you, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am, this is regarding learning to be becoming better, responsible citizen and human being.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sonali. Learning to be is learning to be satisfied with what I have. Learning to be content. Learning to be happy in what life has given me. Yes, it doesn't mean that I don't want to achieve, but whatever I have got, to be deeply satisfied with that, to be grateful to that. Do you think this is important? Somewhere, this is an important component of lifelong learning.
Yes, ma'am. This is very important.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, madam, we are having a subject in business management. We are teaching students of Maslow's hierarchy need, wherein
Yes.
we are having a pyramid shape this thing. The first level, the human being satisfied is the basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. The second one is the related to some kind of your social needs, which is related to your good kind of job and the status you are holding in the society. Then third level relates to somewhat your financial stability and security for the future from point of view for yourself, for your children's, and for rest of the things. I mean, and the last level is up to the on the top of that pyramid is the self-esteem needs. That it means whatever actually the things you have earned in those all this struggling, you need to enjoy those things. That is where the self-satisfaction, actual satisfaction. Where you don't do anything extra for further for attaining something new, different aims or this thing. You just enjoy what you are having and also satisfied. Also at the same time, you are a good human being practicing good things about the betterment of society or for whatever you are having good things with you. Like you have shared the story of Narayan Murthy sir. In a similar manner, trying to give something better to the society. Returning
Right.
that manner.
Being happy with and grateful to what we have. And yes. Dr. Balchan, would you like to share something? I saw your hand raised. Dr. Balchan.
नमस्ते मैडम.
Yes, Dr. Balchan, please go ahead.
जो है एवरी इन्वायरमेंट की एवरीथिंग से हम सीख सकते हैं. साथ साथ में पर्यावरण के से हम चाहे वो उसकी पारिस्थितिकी से हो, चाहे उसकी हर जीव जंतु से हो, या सोशल समाज के हर बिंदु से हम कुछ ना कुछ जरूर सीखते हैं. मैकाइवर ने कहा भी है कि मनुष्य एक सामाजिक प्राणी है, सोशल मैन कहा है, और सोशल मैन के तहत वो उसमें हमेशा सीखने की ललक रहती है. हमेशा वो सीखने की ओर रखता है. और उसके साथ साथ हम हर स्थान पर जहां भी जाएं वहां पर सीखते हैं. और क्लास में हम बच्चों के साथ साथ बच्चों के अन्य चीजों से भी प्रैक्टिकल के तौर पे सीखते हैं. इसीलिए आज प्रैक्टिकल के माध्यम से हम की ललक रखते हैं. राम ने कहा था, लक्ष्मण ने राम को कहा था कि भ्राता कैसी फूल रही यह फुलवारी, यहाँ रंग बिरंग के और मनोरथ जो है विभिन्न प्रकार के यहाँ इन्वायरमेंट दिखाई दे रहा है. और इसमें अनेक प्रकार के फूल, पौधे और जीव जंतुओं से हम कुछ न कुछ उनकी भाषाओं से जंगल में सीख रहे हैं. इसलिए उन्होंने बड़े सीखने की एक विधा को बताया था कि हम पर्यावरण के एवरीथिंग से प्रत्येक समय में, प्रत्येक टाइम में हम सीखने की ललक रखें तो सीख सकते हैं. यही लर्निंग का.
थैंक यू सर. धन्यवाद आपको ये शेयर करने के लिए. श्वेता मैम.
Yes, ma'am. Very good afternoon. Ma'am, according to me, learning to
Good
be is like,
afternoon.
suppose you got everything in life and everything is going smoothly. Still, you have some gratitude towards yourself and the society in which you're living. So, few people do meditation and yoga and these other things. And recently, in the last 2 years, we have already seen that we have faced Corona. So still some few people are having gratitude towards other people. They are still wearing masks and sanitizing and keeping the social distancing and everything. I think this is the exact perfect example in current scenario for learning to be, because we are still learning, I think. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, there was a little drag in your,
Oh,
yeah, but anyway, I think we got the point.
okay,
That,
ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
yes, that we are learning constantly, and thank you, Shweta ma'am, for sharing it. Mridula Sarma, Mridula ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead. I saw your hand raised.
No, ma'am, I do not have any explanation.
Okay,
But,
okay. Your
learning
hand.
means something. Yes, ma'am. Learning means something. Something so which we can adjust ourselves with the society, and through learning we get the knowledge, and application of those learning be successful when we can adjust with our society. According to me, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for bringing your
Thank you.
insight. So what I'm sharing right now with you is the 4 pillars of lifelong learning. Is learning to know, that is learning new, acquiring new knowledge, acquiring new skill, learning to live in a collaborative way, and also learning to be content with what we have and what life has given us. How? The question is, how can we be ready to bring this in our education system? Can we some way get the concept or sensitize our students to understand the importance of lifelong learning, these 4 pillars, in our formal setting? So from an informal learning space format, can we share this information and sensitize them? And how can we get ourselves ready to bring in, to embed lifelong learning concept in our formal education system? How ready we are, and what are the things that we need to keep in mind? I would like to share with you only 3 points, which become very important to inculcate this practice of lifelong learning among our student community. And I want to use our own reflections, how we have incorporated lifelong learning, those lessons that we have learned. And I want you to reflect from 2 perspectives, from our personal angle of how we can incorporate this and how we can transact this or share this concept of lifelong learning to our student community, to the learners. How can we be ready? There are 3 points that I want to highlight, which become important in our engagement with our students. The first one is what we need to emphasize is supporting learners to be self-motivated. Now, I want to ask you one question. I want to ask you this question. What makes us self-motivated? When are you self-driven? What makes you self-driven? Think of yourself as a college student. When you were in college, what made you want to do better? What made you seek for excellence? Can you share your experiences? What made you take on more? Can you think about it? Can you share? I mean, I hope you understood the question that I'm asking. In your college days or in your life as a student, what made you, what made you want to achieve? What were these factors that made you put more effort and try harder? Okay. I think there is one, Sarita ma'am has put in a point here, which she says to secure our future. You're right. When we linked our education to a secure future, we invested more of our effort and time. That means we were self-driven. When we thought of our long-term future and we knew that I can have a better future, I can have a safer future if I invest in the education that I have. You're right. Thank you. There was also healthy competition. Maybe somebody else was doing better and I thought I need to better, or the competition could be with myself, not with somebody else. I could have competed with myself. Last time I got an A, this time I need to get an A+. So I may be competing with myself. Now, what does this indicate? This indicates something very, very, very important. I am self-driven when I know what gives me meaning. Do you agree with me? The more I find meaning in what I am doing, ma'am, Sarita ma'am, what you told me, what you shared is that you understood that the meaning you derived is hard work today is for a secure tomorrow. So that was the meaning you derived. You saw the larger meaning, you saw the larger picture. And when we see the larger picture and when we see the what gives me meaning, then that will make me driven. That's the time when I will go all out and work hard. If I don't see meaning in what I'm doing, if I don't see meaning in why am I studying, why these grades, then many a times I will miss the point. So can we provide opportunities to our students to explore their concept of meaning in their life? It's a very philosophical point that I'm raising. How do you think we can give Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, I think I lost the connect a little bit. Okay, so it's a very philosophical question that I'm raising. How do you think we can help them explore finding meanings? Have you done it? I'm sure you have done it in your sphere of influence. Like, for example, the teacher who was guiding Mr. Narayan Murthy helped him find a larger meaning, larger purpose. More than your achievement, the achievement of your helping others to achieve is much, more purposeful, more meaningful. and more valued. So can you share some of your experiences? If you have had a teacher who was provided that insight to you, that's the first thing. Can you just think about it? Has there been a teacher who inspired you to see a larger meaning in life? Yes. Dr. Swati shares here, by increasing students' interest in the subject and motivating them to do things. Yes, you're right. The more opportunities we provide them for a space for them to try it on their own, that's a very interesting moment for them. Today we had our first years coming in. Our first years came into the campus today, and we met them for the first time. So we thought we are not going to have highly academic sessions with them, but we are going to have spaces for expression, a non-threatening space for expression of their ideas. So what we did was, one of my colleagues conducted or facilitated an interaction using clay. So they had to speak and share their idea by using clay, not through words, developing clay models. Now, some fantastic ideas have come up in that. They spoke or they shared their concerns, they shared their voice using clay, and they spoke about environment. They spoke about so many things which we didn't think. I mean, we didn't think a 17-year-old youngster would come and talk about preserving the natural life in the villages. So they connected to their experience. That's something that we experienced today. Sarita ma'am says that by giving them opportunity to organize programs, absolutely. The seminars, cultural program on their own, and they're very good at it. And they discover themselves. You're right. Thank you for sharing that. Experiencing learning, asking students, I think Mithili ma'am says, experiencing learning, asking students to make projects and PPT, and to explain before all. Absolutely. So when we give them these safe spaces to express their ideas, which is sometimes not conventional ways, but indirect ways of giving them spaces, I think in the process, they experience this as very powerful learning opportunities. They may forget what I have taught in my class. They may forget the theory that I have shared with them, but they will never forget the message that they learned from that experience, what they gathered. Work with the scholar. We used to keep in our ma'am says, work with scholar, we used to keep in our college in the same department. Yeah, I think I think what I'm understanding by that is how we keep the research scholars and how we engage with them. I have my master's, my UG and my master's students with who are actually helping me very well with conducting training programs for the police personnel in Madhya Pradesh on psychological well-being. We do their assessments. And I was amazed to see them when I told them that I have divided into teams and they come with me every week and we go together and we conduct these assessments and train them. I'm amazed to see the professionalism that they demonstrate. It is so heartwarming when they all come with their jackets and they are the best of manners. They explain the concepts to the police personnel. They are so patient in explaining to them. They're so respectful, and I think these are opportunities when they go beyond classrooms. These are opportunities that they learn in finding meaning to what they are learning. And two more points that I want to emphasize on how they develop, how they can be self-motivated. These are supporting points for that. When they find meaning, they are self-motivated. The second thing is, when we help them understand, or when they understand the purpose and processes of evaluation, why are we assessing at all? Why are we assessing students?
Madam, namaste.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Madam, this is Dr. Meenakshi Jayakumar from Chennai.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to share my one view on this learning chapter.
Yes.
Because we have one Ulaga Podumari that is called world's one religious, we cannot term as religious, one message to the world. That is called Tirukural, madam. In the Tirukural, yeah, Tiruvalluvar has written one learning Katral, and the chapter in the chapter he has written Karka, Kasadara, Karpavai, Katrapin, Nirka, Adarku Taha. This is one apt Tirukural for today's topic, I believe. Because Karka is learn, that is verb.
Okay.
Then Kasadara means without any doubt. Or if you take one book, we have to read that book entirely. Even if we miss one chapter also, we may get to wrong conclusion. So Karka, Kasadara Karka, without keeping any balance, we have to read. Katrapin Karka, don't complete your studies. Keep on learning. Continue your studies throughout your life. That is the third word he uses. Karka, Kasadara Karka, Karpavai Karka, and learn what is that you want to learn. What will be workful to you? What will give you happiness or wealth, whatever it is. Whatever gives you soul happiness. In Tamil, we used to say, this world is of material thing. And that heavenly world is for Arul, that is for kindness, one's soul satisfaction. We need both. For that, we have to learn our things should be both Purushartham, Punya. हमारे शिक्षा ऐसे होना चाहिए where हमको पुरुषार्थ भी होना चाहिए और पुरुष भी अर्थात पुरुषोत्तम भगवान भी होना चाहिए. So these things she tells. So karka, kasadara karka, karpavai karka, katrapin karka, nirka karka. Nirka means you should stand on your own legs. That's why you have to read. But studying one thing and working for another thing and getting money from some other source, it's not worth. So whatever you learn and you make money throughout of it. You make soul satisfaction out of it. So learning process should be structured in that way. Then adarka karka, there is so many ways to make money and learn things. So you learn so many ways you can learn. To stimulate the brain, even one of my studies tells, you can use your, for brushing, no, every day we used to brush like this. Sometimes we can try this way also. This is also learning. Our brain stimulates that day morning. So these types of things, one simple couplets, that is not even 2 lines, it is 1 quarter line only. In that he says so many wonderful things. This learning chapter, you are narrating so many wonderful things. You said about Narayana Murthy. The same thing happened in my life also. All my mannerism, all my dressing sense, all my mannerism, I may get through my genes, but most of my genes were moderated through my teachers. Everything I observed only from my teacher. My dressing sense, not like my mother or not like aunt, but it is like my teacher. My teaching methodology, teaching sense, everything depends only on my teacher. So only through teachers we are learning.
Wonderful.
Thank you, madam. This is what
wonderful,
I want to share.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
ma'am. It was a treat here, Tamil.
Yeah. Tamil is a wonderful language. It
Thank
is sweetest Tamil. Thank you.
Thank you so
all
much.
All languages are good only. All languages are equally good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience. I appreciate it a lot, ma'am. I think it's very apt for what we are discussing. So now what Meenakshi ma'am was talking about is what we did just now was reflecting. How much of opportunities do we have in our classrooms or in our lives to reflect? Reflective practices in teaching is very important. How much time, how much of pause do we take and reflect on what we have done? I think somewhere in this fast-paced life, if we have to be self-motivated, if I have to find meaning, one of the most important skill is to reflect on what we have happened. Meenakshi ma'am gave us such wonderful thought process, food for our thought. Sarita ma'am or all of you others shared your thoughts. These are moments. These are not training sessions. These are pauses in our otherwise busy life where we reflect on what are we doing? What is education? How can I get better? What are the things that others are experiencing? How can I learn from others? These are moments of reflection. So how much of such opportunities do I give to my students, and how much of opportunities do I give myself to reflect? So the first point that, as I told you, is supporting learners to be self-motivated. And how can we help them in achieving that is by giving them opportunity to reflect, by helping them find meaning in what they are doing. The second point is I want to share it with you through a puzzle. Can you all, I'll share the screen now. And I all want you to, do you have a paper and pencil with you right now? I want you to keep a paper and pencil with you. And I'm going to put up a small puzzle. If you have done this puzzle, if you have come across this puzzle and you have already attempted it and you know the answer for this, please don't share the answer immediately. Because I want all the others who have not gone through this puzzle to experience this puzzle, and we'll take a learning out of it. Okay. If you know it, please don't share the answer. Don't share it. Pretend that you have never ever tried this puzzle. Are you ready? Are you ready for this puzzle?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, great. So let me share it with you. This is called, can you see it now? Okay. You can see that there are four squares A, B, C, and D. Can you see? And squares A, B, and C have quarter part of it shaded. Right? Give me a thumbs up if you have understood. Just give me a thumbs up. Now, if you see D, the square D is not shaded. Right now, we are going to take one. There are four questions that I'm going to ask. So the first question, so you understand that there are four A, B, C, D squares. Of the four squares, A, B, and C are 3/4 unshaded, quarter is shaded, square D is unshaded. Okay. Now, I want you to, the question that I'm going to give you is divide unshaded portion of A into two equal and identical parts. So you please draw this square in your sheet of paper. Please draw this and then try to tackle each question which comes in red. So the first puzzle or the challenge to you is divide unshaded portion of A that you can see here. This is the unshaded portion of A into two equal and identical parts. So these two words are very important. They should be equal and they should be identical. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Now, I am sure you have done this. Correct?
Yes.
You have drawn a line like that, and now you have two unshaded, identical in equal parts. Excellent.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Now comes the next question. Divide the unshaded portion of B into three equal and identical parts. Equal and identical. That's very important.
I've done this.
Okay, excellent. So I
done this, madam.
Yes, I think most of you have done this, correct?
Yeah. Yes,
Very
yes,
good.
yes.
Excellent, excellent. Very good. Now I have the third question for you. Okay, the third question is divide unshaded portion of C into four equal and identical parts. Equal and identical parts. The clue is the solution is not in the form of triangles. Some of you may have drawn a line here, line like this, and line like that, right? Line like that and line like this. The solution is not in the form of triangles. If you've got triangles anywhere, then that is not the answer. Because then if there is a triangle, it is not an equal and identical. It's not equal and identical. Because if you've drawn this triangle like this way, can you see the cursor? Are you able to see the cursor?
Yes, ma'am.
If the triangle is like this, then it's not equal. The solution lies in the problem itself. That's the clue I'm giving you. The solution lies in the problem itself. Can you think of it? This one is not as simple as the first two ones.
Square shaded portion unshaded portion, four equal parts.
You need four equal parts. You need four. It has to be identical. It has to be identical. Yes. Triangle नहीं होता है. Triangle नहीं होता है इसमें. Triangle is not the answer. So please watch the screen very carefully. Please watch the screen very carefully and see how it has to come. Please look at it. Please watch the. I'm going to press the link.
Yes.
This is how the answer is. Now you will get four equal and identical parts. Now, the last question, friends, is divide D into 7 equal and identical parts. I want you to try it. The clue is it's not in the form of triangles. Have you got it? Friends, I want you to look at the
Screen.
Yeah, screen. Please look at it. What happened? What were you trying to do? Each one of you?
Ma'am, rectangles only.
You did this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else got this? Or were you trying to make it this way? Were you trying to make a triangle this way? How many of you got this answer? Other than Shaili? How many of you didn't get this answer?
So, madam, I have tried to do it in this manner only. 7 parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what happened to many of us others? What happened to many of us? We tried to solve our current problem based on what we have been exposed to earlier. When you did this, the A1, B1 was similar. C was different. C was much more complicated. Now, when you did something very complicated, and then you have to go to a simpler one, there is something that prevents you from reaching that. And that is the mindset. We all operate on mindsets. I can send this to Dr. Apurva, and Dr. Apurva can send it out to you. I want you to give it to somebody and see how the mindset operates. It comes out very beautifully. And get them to do it. When they do it, they'll realize how our minds are operated through our past experience, are shaped by our past experience. So friends, what I'm trying to tell you here is the second important aspect which we need to work on, the mindset of our own mindset and our own students' mindset. And there are two kinds of mindsets. Research in psychology on mindsets are of two kinds. I'll give you 2 sentences. Read these 2 sentences. I don't think I can ever do this. This is one, when we face a challenge, I can say this to myself. I don't think I can ever achieve it here. I can't do this. This is not my cup of tea. Or I can tell, let me give it a try. Come on, let me give it a try. I can say this to myself. Is there a difference in my approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. Research has indicated that when we approach a new situation where I have to unlearn and relearn, there are 2 kinds of mindset that mindset is very powerful. I'll do things based on how I've learned earlier. And I think that is the right one. Now, there are 2 kinds of mindset which will dictate me to think. Either I'll try or I won't try it. And that is what is called as the growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A growth mindset tells me that let me try. Worst क्या होगा? मैं कर नहीं पाती हूँ. ठीक है, try तो किया है. And at least tried. Or I may say, no, I will not do it. Why should I try something where I know I can't do it? Now, this is a very fixed mindset. What we understand now is that lifelong learning requires a growth mindset. And growth mindset is a habit that I have cultivated over a period of time through my engagement with my people around me. If as a person in my childhood, I have faced a lot of criticisms from my parents. You can't do this, don't climb there, don't do this, don't do that, don't do here. No, you can't do anything right. You'll never come up in life. What I keep developing is a fixed mindset. But when I have somebody with me, could be a teacher, who will tell me that, okay, you may not be perfect, try it. Can you try it? Let's see what you can do about it. Can you organize this event for me? Can you try this seminar? Can you come up and present it? It may not be perfect, but at least you have done something. Can you try? Now, when we give such open-ended opportunities for students and to ourselves too, we move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and growth mindset is something which will help us discover ourselves, discover meanings. And we have seen that the more growth mindset we have, the more self-motivated we are. I want to try something new. Let me try. I'll put in my effort. Oh, that person is saying that I can't do it. Well, that's his or her opinion. Let me develop my own understanding about it. So the more growth mindset I develop, the more exploration I do, and more intrinsically motivated I am. So my dear friends, the second point is growth mindset, helping them develop a growth mindset. Let me go to the last point, and I'll wind up in another 2 or 3 minutes. I think lifelong learning is about learning to fail. We have all been trained how to succeed. We have not been trained to fail. And we know that failure is the only road to success. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we all have been trained to succeed. We know how to succeed. But nobody has told us what I need to do when I have failed. And failure is a part of life. So I think somewhere our students need to be trained to fail. I'm not only talking about children, I mean our students. I'm also talking, please apply this to your own children. Please involve this learning to yourself too. Learning to fail is okay. It's very important. And how? The most important thing is to disconnect fear from failure. We value judge success and failure. We say success is good, failure is bad. Success is right and failure is wrong. So there is a deep connect between fear of failure. If we are able to disconnect it, I think one of the powerful learning moments that we Indians had about learning to fail is from our mission to the moon. Remember that? Remember our mission to the moon? When Vikram, the lander, do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
That was a powerful learning moment for all of us. That was a powerful collective learning moment of importance of so-called failure, and failure is never a failure. The day our, Vikram went 99.9%, it went to that place where it should have gone, but the last few seconds it crash landed. Do you remember what we all went through? I'm sure many of you sat through that telecast of that entire thing. Did you see all our scientists? Did you see what Shivan, the director of ISRO, went through? But did we see it as a failure? Do we call it a failure? I think that was a great moment of learning for all of us. Disconnecting fear from failure. I think somewhere we need to normalize failure and train our students that it is okay to fail. A failing is a learning opportunity. Criticism is an opportunity to learn. Being criticized by somebody is an opportunity for me to learn. So somewhere the third important point is we need to teach our children, our students to fail. And we also need to understand and accept that it's okay to fail. There is a powerful learning opportunity when I fail. Even today, business schools are teaching, case studies from failures, because from failures we learn what can work. So I think somewhere we need to focus on this, and that would incorporate very powerful learning opportunity for our students and in our entire education system, which is missing, and that is lifelong learning through three important things. One is through a growth mindset, to learning to fail, and the third one is through searching for a meaning or, being self-motivated. So when I accept failure, when I have a growth mindset, I'm intrinsically driven. I think if we can do this, we are doing great service for the next generation, because the next generation has not been exposed to hardships like the earlier generation was exposed to. So they've become a little fragile. They don't know really how they're not hardwired. So I think somewhere that lifelong learning has to be embedded into our education system. And if we are able to do it, I think we are doing great service for this planet and for the next generation. And I think for ourselves too. I think thank you for, these were a few thoughts that I wanted to share. I've taken 9 minutes extra according to my schedule here. I apologize for that. But
No, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
I think I after listening to your lecture, ma'am, I can only recall a couplet which is written by Javed Akhtar, कि क्यों डरे जिंदगी में क्या होगा, कुछ ना होगा तो तजुर्बा होगा.
Yes.
I am spellbound and speechless every time I hear you, ma'am, and it's such an honor and a pleasure to learn and unlearn things, because majority of the times we are so stuck in the process of failure that we even forget that we'll ever succeed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the valuable lessons you've given us today, ma'am. Thank you so much. Before we end the session, I'll request everybody to please switch on the camera so that we can have a virtual group photograph.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for sharing your ideas.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I will send this little puzzle to Apurva. Apurva, I request you to send it across to everybody, because I want you all to try it on your kids, try it on your students.
We'll do that now.
Ma'am, I had a small request, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing. I just wanted to say that if you could share one quiz wherein we could access our own, the last one, how that whether we are really self-motivated or whether we are going to motivate our students in that manner. A quiz, if you could share with us, that would be better, ma'am.
I will do that.
Ma'am, please.
Yes,
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
ma'am.
Thank you.